Hey guys, another angle video. This one's about complementary and supplementary angles using the angle addition postulate. And I chose to do this one as its own video because it's kind of a little review of complementary and supplementary, but also reviews the AAP. Okay, so the first thing that I want to refresh is just what is complementary and what is supplementary. So the first example here says, if angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary, find the measure of angle 1. And then it gives us a diagram where angle 2 is equal to 32 degrees. So if you recall from our vocabulary way at the start of this year, complementary angles add to 90 degrees. So if angle 2 is 32 degrees, we're going to simply subtract 90 minus 32, and that will give me the measure of angle 1, which should be 58 degrees. Similarly, we can have another example, but instead of complementary angles, supplementary angles. So this one says if angles 1 and 2 are supplementary, find the measure of angle 1, and it tells us the measure of angle 2 is 156 degrees. So supplementary angles add to 180. Again, to find my missing angle 1, I'm going to take 180, subtract 156, which is going to give me 24 degrees for the measure of angle 1. Okay, so those two questions were a basic review of the definitions of complementary and supplementary. Now I really want to try some examples with algebra. These are a little more challenging because you need to set up an equation instead of just subtracting two numbers. So the word problem says if angles 1 and 2 are complementary and angle 1 is 3x plus 7 and angle 2 is 2x plus 3, find x. So we don't have a picture like we did in the first two examples. So step 1 is going to be draw a diagram. So again, if these angles are complementary, I know that they must add up to be 90 degrees. So I want my diagram to look somewhat like a 90-degree angle. I don't know which angle is bigger or smaller. It doesn't really matter at this point, as long as I have, angle 1 is over here, and then angle 2 is not congruent, so I'm going to put two arcs. I mean, it might be congruent, we don't know yet. So angle 1 is 3x plus 7. Angle 2 is 2x plus 3, right? So what do we know about those expressions? Step 2 is going to be find x. So I need to set up an equation. Can't just subtract. But I know that both of them together, since they're complementary, are going to add to 90 degrees. So I'm going to add them up. 3x plus 7 plus 2x plus 3 together should equal 90. So go ahead and solve for x, and then resume the video when you're ready to pick up. So now that we have the value for x, we can actually figure out the measures for each of my individual angles. So I'm going to do that by plugging in 16 for the value of x. So 3 times 16 plus 7. And then for the measure of angle 2, I'm going to plug in 16 for x again. And then we can figure out what the specific angle measures are. So I got 55 degrees for angle 1 and 35 degrees for angle 2. In order to check my answer, both of these angles should add up to be 90 since they're complementary. So if I were to just check, 55 plus 35 does equal 90, so it checks out. If for whatever reason the sum is not 90, you want to go back because something didn't work out correctly. Okay, example 4. It's very similar to example 3, but change of words here. Instead of complementary, we have supplementary angles. So we're going to follow the same 5 steps. Angles 1 and 2 are supplementary. So that means they add to 180 degrees. So my diagram is going to look like this, right? I'm going to have angle 1 and then angle 2. Doesn't matter if you labeled yours the other way because we don't know what's what right now. So 4x minus 19, 4x minus 1. The diagram just kind of helps you visualize. If you don't need a diagram, it is absolutely not necessary on a quiz or a test, but it does help some people see, oh yeah, these two make a straight line, which means 180. So in order to solve for x, I'm going to write my equation by adding these two angles to equal 180 degrees. And then we can solve for x. So we have 8x minus 20 equals 180. Since this is subtraction, I'm going to always do the opposite. So x is 25. Now, I want to check by finding the measures of each individual angle. And when I do that, I plug in 25 for x here. I get the measure of angle 1 is equal to 81 degrees. Measure of angle 2 is equal to 99 degrees. So in order to check my answer, I'm going to add them together. So check 81 plus 99 gives me 180, which is supplementary. So that's one way I can check to make sure my answer makes sense. So two main ideas for this video. When you're doing angle addition postulate for complementary and supplementary, you always want to set up an equation. So your equation is going to add two angles to be 90 degrees or add two angles to be 180 degrees.